Hi everyone, what's going on? Welcome and thank you for being here. Basically, we're here to talk about how to grow your personal brand on social media with vidyo.ai, and we've got an amazing guest with us. I understand that all of you are here for one and only one reason, which is to grow your business or your personal brand on social media. And here we have Jen Bryan, who not only runs a successful social media agency managing hundreds of clients, but has also blown up her own Instagram from 0 to 100,000 followers within just 6 months. Jen, thank you so much for being here. We are exceptionally glad to have you.
So happy to be here. Looking forward to digging in on building that personal brand and a business brand all in one.
Awesome. So, to give you guys more context, Jen Bryan is the co founder of Velocity Growth and is the creator of the popular 0 to 100 Instagram growth course. With her dual expertise in personal branding and business building, Jen offers invaluable perspectives on leveraging video for substantial growth. So, as we were talking to Jen, we realized there were specific strategies that she applied to grow to this level. And with this masterclass series of ours, we wish to share the knowledge with you all. So, make sure that you stay tuned until the end. We also have a very special announcement for you that I want to make before we kick off. So, we have a sweet little offer for you. If you use the code JenBryan10, that's JANBRYAN10, and if you use that code, you will get an additional 10% off any of our annual plans. If you upgrade during the webinar itself, you will also get 500 minutes free. So please do not share that code with anybody else. That's exclusive for everybody who's attending this. The code can't be there forever. So please make sure that you take advantage of it. If you go on the vidyo.ai app and click upgrade, you will see a code section, and then it's going to ask you for your credit card details. It is that simple. If you have any additional questions, you can hit up support or drop your questions in the chat. So once again, if you want to get 10% off any annual plan of vidyo.ai, you can use the code GenBrand10. You also get an additional 500 minutes free if you use the code within the duration of the webinar. All right. Now, having given you all that sweet little offer, let's kick things off. Jen, let's dive straight into it. I want to know, how has your journey been like in building your own brand on social media?
Tough, but getting easier and easier as AI gets better and better. So on May 29th of last year, about the week before that, I had a meeting with one of my clients, and I'm a PPC marketer by trade. What that means is that I primarily work in paid advertising, so dollar in, dollar out kind of marketing. And I was giving social media advice to this client, and they rightfully asked me, have you done this though? Is this accurate? Have you done this? And I was like, actually, no, I haven't. So I felt like I was a shoemaker with no shoes. So next week, I was like, that's it. I'm going to do 100 days straight. And I ended up doing like 150 something days in the end. But I wanted to make sure that I had a piece of content or two going out every single day for that 6 months. And yeah, day 1 to 30 were bleak. Day 30 to 45, things started picking up, and then it just started snowballing from there.
Right, absolutely. And I also want to dig deep into, how did you end up gaining 100,000 followers in just 6 months on social media? I mean, that's you massively snowboarded into 100K followers. How did that happen in such a short span of time?
Yeah, so really, when it comes to social media, what you want to figure out is what's going to work. And you have to do a little bit of reverse engineering there as well. So what I did was I looked at lots of other creators in the niche that I wanted to work in. And I took the style of content they were creating and started making it my own, started experimenting with it. So I'm a firm believer that the first thing you need to do when you're doing something like this is observe others. So, just like when you're a kid and you're learning to do something new for the first time, you look at someone doing it first and then you mimic it a little bit to try, get your feet, and then you start flaring it up and creating your own content. So that's very much how I started, but it was my experience as a marketer in the background where I was able to start looking at the data and saying there was something there was something about this, and eventually I just started figuring these things out. But as time went on through that 6 months, I was able to start looking at more AI tools to speed up the process, be it figuring out what's going to work really well for me or to just do some of the legwork early on. So, like, my first few weeks in particular were hard. I was getting up early, recording. I'm not a video editor, so I was sitting down trying to play with video editors. I must have gone through I don't know how many trying to figure it out, and then just scheduling as much content as I could. And not everything is going to blow up on social media, and the what you got to do is try get the ratio as good as possible. So at the moment, 1 in every 18 or so videos of mine will go viral. Last a few months ago, that was down to about 1 in 12, but now I'm experimenting again because I want to try new styles and new ideas and look at different things. So you're looking at trying to get that ratio down as much as possible, and once you find the little tweaks, you can start figuring that out.
Right, absolutely. To what extent would you say your background as a marketer helped you expedite your growth on social media? And another follow-up question is, if a creator does not have any experience in marketing and is new in this field, what are some tips that you would give to them in order to be able to grow on their socials?
I think from the marketer perspective, that helped a little bit from the viewpoint that I was day in, day out helping clients roll out adverts on paid social media. So putting money behind content to help them try to get conversions. And when you do that, you start to learn things like, well, the first 3 seconds are really important. Then you've got to look at, the mid section of the video. Is the story holding people? Is there a nice call to action at the end? I generally knew a structure that was going to hold people's attention. So from that perspective, yes. But as you know yourself, in the world of marketing, everything is, a lot of people think marketing is marketing, but on our team, especially, we have like, PPC marketers, we have SEO specialists, we have social media specialists. Wasn't my specialist area. If you ask me a question about SEO right now, I'd have to go, I actually don't know. So there was a learning curve there. And I think that learning curve happens for everyone. And it's constant in social media, because what worked for me in the first 6 months of growth is shifting now, as well as the algorithms, as everything starts to shift. So you can roll with that as well. You're going to have to repeat the second question for me, though, because I just went on such a tangent there that I can't remember it.
Right. For anyone who does not have any experience in marketing,
Mm.
how do you think that they can grow on socials?
I think it is far different now than it was when I started even 6 months ago. And that sounds wild because it's only the space of 6 months. But over the last, year and a half, AI has made things a very different playing field. What I would be saying to people who are getting started now is to look at the AI tools that can help you. There is not much point anymore in sitting down and being like, right, I'm going to dig into this really complex tool system that once upon a time you would just have to sit down and learn. You'd have to put in that 100 hours of learning before you could do the 100 hours of creation. Whereas now you can let the AI do a lot of the legwork and just focus on being creative.
Right, absolutely. So before we dig into what AI
Mm.
tools did you use to blow up on your socials, I do want to take some questions from the audience. So Mike asks, do you suggest using a brand name or your personal name for branding on socials?
I think this is largely dependent on where you are on your business growth. So if you don't have your first 100 customers yet, the only person who's really going to be able to connect with people to get those are you. If it's a bigger company, then I would be leaning towards the brand name. But it very much depends. And you can transition your account. There's nothing wrong with that. One thing that I really thought about when I was getting started was, will I create a whole new page? But I didn't bother. I just leaned into the new style of creation, and the algorithm figured out what I was doing pretty quickly. If you scroll back on my account pre 2023, you'll see tons of photography shots that I was just happened to be interested in photography a few years ago. And if you scroll even further back, it gets into teenage gen territory, so don't scroll too far back. But it's like that. You don't necessarily need to. You can transition quite easily from founder to business, or from
Right.
personal brand into business brand as time goes on. But I would think where you're at in your business growth journey to make that decision.
Right, absolutely. That makes sense. Also, Vicky asks she want to attract more of her niche market as new followers, and she wants to learn how to do that. So, are there any tips on ensuring that the audience that you are attracting is specific to your niche? What kind of
Yes.
content can you, to cater to your niche audience?
Yeah, the best thing that you can start doing there is by actually just creating content that is ideal for your niche. So, there is a research piece before you ever put yourself in front of the camera here as well, where you're looking at Google Trends, what's happening in your niche right now. You're looking at Answer the Public. You're looking at what questions people are asking. You're using the search feature inside an Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and you're looking at what are people creating content about in your niche, because there's a reason those views are there on those already. If, for example, in my industry, let's say I do a lot of videos on AI tools. Let's say, for example, if I do a search in Instagram around AI tools, I'll see what people are talking about, and then I can go and reflect on some of those AI tools. Am I already using them? What is my take on those? You can start bringing your own flair to it, but you have to do that little bit of research first.
Absolutely. Right. And Mike also asks that if you want to build a business on social, so you are able to sell digital products like ebooks,
Mhm.
what is the step by step breakdown of creating a profile on socials that helps you sort of not only reach out to the audience that you can sell these books to, but also make sure that you're able to create a community on your social media.
Community is definitely something that I am thinking about a whole lot more now, because I was in so much in growth mode at the start that now I'm really transitioning into, like, if you look at my next few months of content, it's really around that engagement piece and forward looking. But there's a few strategies that you can do there. There's lots of ways you can get, some of my most viral content, for example, I have one video that has 9.7 million views, and it's an ebook. And essentially I'm saying this is the hook. So essentially is, hey, stop doing this until you know about this is the hook. Then it goes straight into your problem. So it goes through the problem. And then it has the solution of, well, this is going to cover you. And if you comment below, I'll send it straight to your DMs. And then they get shipped a link. And actually, that link, I use Gumroad. They have the opportunity to put in $0 or actually put in a monetary amount. And you'd be
Right.
surprised at how many people will actually put in a monetary amount. Now, you could set a monetary amount if you wanted to do that from the get go, but I find that giving people the optionality, you'd be really surprised at how much revenue you can generate using tools like that. So there's the way you structure the video, you pin that solution towards the end and then deliver out the CTA to get them hooked, because they'll very rarely click the link in your bio. So try get into their DMs.
Absolutely. Love the structure that you've shared with the audience for, how to frame their video content to attract more sales. What
Yeah.
do you think should the audience prioritize in social media? Should they prioritize building their business or should they prioritize building their personal brand first? What's your take on it?
I think people buy from people. I think whichever way you look at that question, the answer comes back to the same premise, which is, are people connecting with you or the persona that you were leveraging in your in on your account? And there's a third piece to that where lots of people don't want to put their face to camera anymore, and that's fine too. There's lots of ways you can create faceless video content as well, but there should be an emotive piece to it, or there should be some connective tissue there to make the audience resonate with it. So whether you're building a personal brand, a business brand, a faceless brand, just a side hustle to make some additional income, You have to have something that's consistent and something that connects. And once you get those two things right, it sounds so simple. If it was that simple, everyone would have a blown up channel. But it takes a lot of trial and error. You have to just not be afraid to throw all of the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. And you should also, I'm a firm believer that if you're not looking back at your content from 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks ago and don't feel a little bit embarrassed, then you're not moving forward. So just put it out into the world and get started.
Absolutely. Right. Dave asks, how do you attract local followers to your business on socials? How do you make sure that you're doing geographical targeting through your video content?
This is a really interesting one because you have very limited control over where your reels, especially, are going to be distributed. So, for example, I'm based here in Ireland. 30% of my audience is American, another 20% is in India, Pakistan, Australia, Canada. I actually only 3% of my audience is Irish. So it's now we're a small country, so that would make some of it as well. But to be honest, it's very difficult to control it. But I did hear of this really good tip recently, which is, first of all, you can put your location on the post, and that can help a little bit. But when I tried that, it still didn't, tailor it to just Ireland, for example. But if there's regions where you feel like the lead quality is on the poorer side and you want to, say, increase your lead volume from the US, or Canada, or some region like that, you can actually use the age controls in your audience section. So if you go into your settings in Instagram, you can restrict people of a certain age in a certain country from seeing your content. The feature is there, for example, if you were selling something that would be legal in one region and not in another, or based on different ages. But if you just restrict all the ages in a specific region, you inevitably actually block that region from seeing your content. So you can do it by matter of exclusion, but that's just a little hacky workaround other than just tagging your location. Other than that, you've got very limited control.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Gina asks, can you talk more about how to create content that actually converts into sales? What is the way that you're leveraging video content to ensure that you are also able to generate business from it, generate leads from it, and grow your clientele and client base?
Yeah. So I'm not an e-commerce brand, or I'm not a top of funnel brand, or what I mean by that is that I'm not a brand that sells something at a low price point. Yes, I have the ebooks and pieces and courses and bits and bobs like that where people can come in and just buy it at an appropriate price point for the channel. What you will find is that, I'm at what, 100 and I'll probably cross 138,000 in the next few days. And of that, I think I'm at like maybe 5 or 6 high paying clients where that's like 4 to 5 figures a month. So it's one in every maybe 20,000 people are actually going to be at that price point. So you have to factor in where your price point is at first and foremost. For me, because of that, my top of funnel, I picture Instagram as like the very top of the funnel. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, all of these people are coming in. Some of them are going to be at the higher price point, but very few. And some of them are going to be at the lower price point. And I'm going to capture them at different areas. So the lower price point, I can just float that to the top of the funnel and say, maybe everyone would kind of like that. What I do in some of my DM automations is I will send them the ebook, or I'll send them whatever they asked for from the piece of content, and that'll ship straight to their DMs. And at the end of that DM, I also have, and would you like to join my newsletter? And would you like to join my YouTube channel and look at my longer form pieces of content? So I'm bringing them into a different journey, because Instagram and all of the short form content for me is, it's the reach, it's the sheer volume of people I can get in front of. But now I have to take them through the funnel and I have to create impact. I have to create a connection with them. That can be, it's easier to do once I have a deeper connection. And that's where my long form content comes in. And that's really where my funnel takes people through then from there. So it's about looking at the different platforms as a layer. And you're gonna have to connect a lot deeper for the higher price point, and you can float the lower price point up a little bit higher. So it depends where you are in your pricing.
love the journey that you're using to loop in
Mm.
your customers and make those potential customers turn into clients,
Yeah.
right? I feel like, of course, to do this entire process, you must be using a lot of tools for video editing, for automating DMs. So when Shora Living with Harold Powell asks, what AI tools do you use and what are your favorites?
Huge mixture of tools for video editing, for long form to short form. I mean, that's why we're talking here with video AI. I mean, a lot of that work comes through that tool for me, and that's really been helpful now that I've started to flesh out using my YouTube channel. I have a podcast as well, and we use a tool called Squadcast to record in an online recording studio that allows you to get all of the bells and whistles of fantastic audio and video, long form, but it's virtual. It's like Zoom. It's like this. It's like we're talking just like this, but it's really high quality. And then you can ship it out again, bring it into a tool like video to like chop that up really quickly. I back to basics a lot of the time. Your Canva, your thumbnail tools like that are great. There's a little feature that I actually really enjoy inside in video called Vidi, where I can get like all of the use my transcripts to start getting my show notes and things like that. Like I don't want to be sitting there writing out my show notes all day and stuff like that. So using tools like that can really speed up the work there as well. And then sometimes it's less about the AI tools and more about the thought process before you start even using them. So, for
Yeah.
example, when I'm creating a long form piece of content that I'm going to chop up, um, I will still be thinking of a structure in my mind of what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. And it's a little trick that I've learned even while I'm podcasting is if I have a point to make, I will structure it before I say it to sound like a sound bite, or that I know it's gonna sound good when it's cut out, essentially. I try to avoid taking these random sentences of mine and trying to push those on social. Sometimes I will sit down and I will talk to camera, but I will, sit down for 20, 30 minutes and I'll say, okay, here's my hook, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the call to action. And I'll roll through 20, 30, 40 of those in one sitting in an hour, hour and a half. Knowing that planning will help the AI tool then to just go chop, 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 which you can make your life so much easier afterwards as well. So the planning sometimes is a little bit more important than the AI tools. And then for all of my automations from comment to DMs and all of that, I use ManyChat. I'm trying to think what other tools I use in the mix. Those are really my playbook. I use Notion for planning. I use video editing like video, and then I'll go through Canva for the thumbnails. I'll come back to video inevitably to get like what I'm going to write in the caption and the show notes and all the rest of it, and then
Yeah.
shipping from there. But a bulk of the work goes into the planning too.
Yeah, right. So to give everyone context, Jen has been a valued member of vidyo.ai and has been using it for a while. Since you mentioned Widi, to
Mm,
give everyone a heads up, Widi is our AI content assistant, which
mm,
enables you to go truly multi-platform. What that means is that Widi enables you to create show notes, search engine optimized blog posts, LinkedIn posts, tweets, newsletters. You can just sort of create more content from your video content, which is pretty amazing. And you can do that in a matter of seconds, right? You can also ask Widi for ideas for new content related to your existing video content. And in the future, what we have on our roadmap is that Vidi will also assist with labor intensive tasks like content creation and organizing your content calendars. So that's something that you folks can look forward to if you upgrade to the annual plan. This is something that we have on the roadmap, and we are all very thrilled and excited about it. I think it's extremely important that when you have a bank of video content with you, it's extremely important that you repurpose that content into different forms of content that you can then put out on your socials. Because just sort of relying on video content is not enough. It's important to sort of know how to repurpose that content. So, Jen, what has your journey with repurposing content been like?
Repurposing, I mean, when I started marketing, I remember sitting down and repurposing some like clients' podcasts and physically sitting down and like typing out the subtitles line by line, taking them out manually. It just feels like a world of difference. I'm clearly not that old. Like that's only a few years ago. It's wild to think how different repurposing content is now. But over the years, and this is even something that I was looking at as recently as 2 hours before jumping on this, was I was going through my library of videos that I have, and I have over 120 long form videos that were from training courses, support videos that I had done for clients, because we use recording tools a lot just to answer questions. And I just didn't realize how much was actually sitting there from the last like 4 or 5 years of business. And I was like, I just need to chop all this up and post it, because especially like I've just launched on YouTube. I'm 4 weeks in, 4 long form videos in, and this week I was like, I just didn't have time to record a video, and I hate missing a deadline for posting a piece of content, especially when I'm trying to build on a new channel. But then I had my backlog. I was able to go in and look at that backlog. And now not only do I have the backlog up there, but I was able to look at that long form piece that I put up just this morning, and I'm able to chop it all up. And now I have 10, 11 promotional pieces of content that I can schedule 2, 3 a day on YouTube Shorts over the next couple of weeks and tag the long form video in it. So it goes back to my funnel again, where I'm looking at that top of funnel, and I just couldn't really believe that it hadn't clicked with me as quickly on YouTube as it had on social platforms. So the social platforms, I was just looking at short volume, go short volume, figure out what's working. And now that I figured out my funnel just needs that little bit more quality at the bottom in terms of length of content or length of time people spend with me, now I'm looking at that bank and repurposing it into YouTube, chopping it all up, getting that connections out, because I know the short form videos on YouTube will get the reach. And then there's a nice feature on YouTube in particular where you can tag the long form video. So it brings them back to the long form video again. But then I have that distribution across Instagram, TikTok. Comment below if you'd like the link to the YouTube. It's all about building out my funnel. But yeah, that one piece of content that's been sitting in a Google Drive for 2 years is now going to become a piece of content that will reach 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people over the next few weeks, short form, and then drive all of the quality into the long form. So that's the way I'm thinking about repurposing it. And it's tools like this that help me do that, because there's the Alex Hormozis, Gary V's of the world that can distribute 4, 5, 6 pieces of content on every channel on every day. And as a creator, you can look at it and it's just too daunting. It's just too much. But then it's not if it's a click of a button. So, times are changing.
Absolutely. Right. So Robert asks, how do I get more views on my clips? I do hashtags, similar videos on my channel pages, post every day. I am consistent. I see some success, but usually I get 10 to 15K views per video, then it slows down. So how do you sort of accelerate growth?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too far off that, to be honest. That's why I go back to that ratio. Not everything is going to land, and it's very difficult to determine what is. What I'd love to, get you to figure out is look at that 10 to 15K per video and ask yourself, is that the top end that I'm reaching? Or if that's the average, there must be blowout examples, and there must be examples that are below and above that as well. So I would, like, what I do when I go back over the last 30 days of my content is I'll reflect on the mid to low volume, and I'll say, what about those felt similar, or what's the connecting reasons across those that I can see? And then on the higher volume, I will look to signals there. The signals are typically very similar across all of them. First of all, I'm based in Europe, so I can't see my shares, which is really unfortunate, because I hear that's a fantastic metric to have. First is view rate. If you have a view rate of more than 50%, you're on to a winner. I guarantee you, any of your videos above that 15K mark, your higher end videos probably have more than 50% of the video watched. That retention rate of the viewer is actually directly correlated to the length of the video, though. So if you have a short video, 6-7 seconds. You see those, everyone's like, read the caption, and there's like a little floating video. Yeah, that's because it has to loop. It has to loop at least once to get 100% plus retention because it's so short. If you move towards 15 to 25 seconds, where I find my sweet spot at the moment, it seems to be 16, 17 seconds. I find if I get above 55% retention, then at that point, my video will fly above the average. And then if I can
Yes.
get anything above that, fantastic. The longer the video, the more leniency you have on that retention metric. And then saves and comments are always going to be more important than likes. So factor those in as well. But typically, when you're looking at that retention, it's just such a strong metric to look at. And that's why I position, I've said it probably a couple of times now, the hook problem solution CTA. The reason is that you hook them in, you point out their problem, and then you have the solution, because you're past 50% of the video when you're delivering that key piece of information, or how you say things should be similarly structured. And that allows for that retention rate to be very strong. Then, telling people to comment to get an extra freebie drives that up, and same with the saves and all of the rest of it. So there's a few things that you can do there. For example, I have 138,000 or so followers. If you look at my views over the last week, they've actually been much poorer than average. And the reason for that is that you'll see a whole new style of content, and it's going to take the algorithm actually a little bit of time to pick that up. So I'm sacrificing my views temporarily to explore. I always think of my account as in one of two phases. We're in growth mode, which is tripling down on everything that's worked in the past and just blowing up the account and trying to get as much reach as possible. Or we're in experimentation mode, where we're sacrificing the views to figure out what else might work, so that we have variety in what we can use to drive growth over time, because it's such a long process too.
Absolutely. Right. So I just want to take a short break to remind the audience that we have an offer for you all. The offer is that if you use the code GenBrian10 while upgrading your plan, you get an additional 500 minutes free and 10% off on our annual plans. So please make sure that you use that code within the webinar so that you get access to free 500 minutes. Make sure to take advantage of it. Someone asked on the chat, how do you use the code? So if you go on the vidyo.ai app and click upgrade, you will see a code section. And then it's going to ask you for your credit card details. So you can input the code and then input your credit card details. It's that simple. All right, Jen. Coming back to the questions, DM Milkman asks, is there an optimal hashtag count, or is more is better the case?
No, more is better is definitely not the case, and hashtags are actually on the real lower end of importance at the moment. So what I would be strategizing towards is looking at your caption as if it were a little tiny blog. You're looking at some of the keywords inside in there, and you're working off the assumption that Instagram has become smart enough to understand what's in your thumbnail and what's in your caption. And your hashtags can be part of that, but I wouldn't overly add too many. So I still use them, but it's probably a legacy thing that I'm even using them, hashtag, and I almost make them up at the end. I'm like, hashtag AI tools, hashtags, whatever I think is relevant. I'm not doing I did no hashtag research whatsoever to grow my account. I did do a lot of research around what I call Instagram SEO, or search engine optimization, where I wanted to learn more about how Instagram reads the captions. It is, if you've got a great video, your caption isn't that important. If you go back through some of my posts, you'll see my lazy caption days. Other days you'll see really well structured ones. It's like options like Vidi there that will give you some extra beefing of that as well. But yeah, you think more about what you're saying and the keywords that you're using and structurally putting into your caption, more so than the hashtags.
All right. And would you say that hashtags are still relevant or important? Because some of the people in the chat are saying that they have more success with zero hashtags. What's your take on it?
I've messed about with it. I mean, my best performing video at 9.7 million views has one hashtag on it.
Wow.
So It's a very difficult one to answer. I didn't do any hashtag research going into it. I think the week that I started, I remember it must have been around that time, but I can't exactly remember when that what's your man's name? The CEO of Instagram. His name is eluding me, but Massari, I think is his handle on Instagram, but he came out with a statement just being like, hashtags just aren't that important anymore. Like Instagram themselves have come out to say, you can use hashtags. They will, people can search them, use them, find them, but they have no major or meaningful impact upwards or downwards on your content compared to the quality of the content and the information that's in your caption. So I believe that if you had looked at all of your hashtags that you're using and had worked them into a nice caption structure in the sentences, let's say, say hashtags AI tools, if you had typed, these are some of the best AI tools that I have found this week, I believe that, it's two of the same, essentially.
Absolutely. That makes sense. All right. Uh, Emma asks, what are some tips for using trending audios in your video content?
Trending audios, I have only started experimenting with them in the last few weeks. So what's interesting is that it's the trending audio piece is something that I didn't use on any of my viral videos. So any of my videos that have more than 1 million views don't have trending audio accompanying them. But my type of content typically doesn't align itself well to a trending piece of audio, because typically what fun the people are having, I really struggle to align with what I'm saying and what I'm doing. That being said, I am starting to tease it in a little bit more. So going back to some of the experimentation I'm doing at the moment, for clients that I have that are e-commerce or that, can really lay into some of these trends, say they're looking at fashion items. I have a jewelry brand that I work with that does this a lot, and they can really lean into the trending audios. What I find great for the trending audio side of things on that front is try to find the audio that is around the 10 to 20k usage mark. It's just up and coming. If you can get on the trending audio in the curve, fantastic. If you're using it up here, you may as well not be using it. You could be using something better. And if you're using it at the very bottom, you may not get the trajectory of it either. So you're trying to find the sweet spot of trending audios. But for me, sometimes I just find that legwork too much on top of one or two pieces of content every day, when I know that a valuable piece of content will do very well regardless of a trending audio. But if you're trying to cash in on a trend that is accompanied by a trending audio in particular, then make sure to do that research.
Right, absolutely. Some of the audience members are also asking about the tools you use for DM automations.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a subscription service or does it have a cost? What does that look like?
I use a tool called ManyChat. I believe I'm paying $10 a month for it. I believe the subscription gets far more expensive as well. However, I use a little trick with ManyChat. They charge you for the volume of contacts that you keep in the system, because it's also a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. However, I don't need a CRM tool to manage all of my Instagram followers. They're all sitting in my follower list. I don't need that feature, but it will add a contact every time a DM is shipped out. So I go in every few weeks and I just delete everyone from the contact list, and then it keeps the subscription cost really, really low. I think there might be a free version of ManyChat where they tag themselves at the end of every DM that goes out. I definitely use the premium. I mean, I think in the last maybe 5 or 6 months, more than 200,000 messages have gone out from ManyChat from my account, and it's wonderful for the little things that you wouldn't even think about. Like if someone says, hey, it says, hey, how are you? Is there something I can help you with? And only then will it get chipped through to me after they've answered that question. I get hundreds of DMs every day of people being like, can you like, comment and share this image? And I'm like, look, I just get too many of these. It auto replies when someone says like, comment and share in my DMs. So there's lots of different automations that you can put in place. One that I figured out recently that I really like is you can use ManyChat to say comment and make sure you're following and comment below. If that's your call to action, when someone comments, a message goes to their DM to say, if they're already following you, the message will give them the information. If they're not following you, it says, hey, thanks for commenting. I noticed you're not following yet. Can you drop a follow, and you'll get the message straight away. And then if they don't, it kind of loops that message until they don't, until they do. I found it a nice it grew my account about 1,000 followers at one point, and I actually ended up pulling it back out again, because what I found is that my unfollow rate was kind of getting staggered with it, because people were just following to get the message and then unfollowing again. If they just want that one piece of information, don't force people to follow you, is my general rule of thumb, because if they're not willing, then you can't force followers to happen either. But it was an interesting experiment. I wonder what it would work better for a different type of account than mine. So it's something you can exactly run the experiment. It didn't work for me, but it might work for someone else.
Right. That seems like a great hack, to increase your followers on the short term level, of course. And as you said,
Yeah.
you can't force somebody to follow you, right? Got another content. Got another question. Sorry, that was AI related. AI seems to be a great time saver, but how do we not use this as a crutch for content? And are there any upsides or downsides to using ChatGPT or other AI tools for content creation? I've heard you can be penalized, but I've also heard the opposite.
This depends where and when you're using it. I mean, if you're using AI to create all of your blog content and you're not adding a little bit of a human flair to it, then that might cause some difficulty on the search engine optimization. Google has come out to say that they are they've rolled out something called EEAT, which is an authority score to a piece of content. So essentially, the author of any piece of content, if they are tied to reputable sources, and that could be anything. For example, for me, in my author bio on my website, it says, I have a master. We use it's called schema markup. I know this is a whole side topic, but it says that I have a master's degree. It shows where I've spoken before, podcasts I've been featured on. It stack ranks my authority to help that content move upwards. So that's really helpful there. But I don't think if you look at it as a crutch for creating content, then you're putting yourself on the back foot almost. What I would be excited about is the opportunity to leverage it, because anyone who was a good marketer is now a great marketer because they have AI. Anyone who's a great marketer is now a phenomenal marketer because they have AI. If you use it to level up the creative work that you're already doing, then it's just expediting what you can do. It's only a crutch if you aren't going to put in some of the legwork yourself to begin with. You're relying solely on it. So it comes back, like, for example, I'm going to use an example with video here. If I don't sit down and create my long form piece of content with that piece of thought in mind first, even if I ask ChatGPT or ask AI for some examples of how I could come up with ideas or the topics or the structures, if I don't sit down and go, right, this is going to be my hook, this is going to be the problem, this is the solution, this is the call to action. If I haven't told it to do that, or if I haven't generated that myself, then I'm going to be on the back foot. But instead, I'm not using it as a crutch. I'm using it as leverage so that I can create bulks of content that are relevant and high quality.
Absolutely. So Yuri and Margot ask, what advice or actionable steps should someone take to kick off video marketing to somebody who's a complete newbie to it and is starting from the level of zero? I know that you have a course on how to go from level zero to 100 on Instagram. So what would be some of the actionable tips that you would give to somebody who's just starting out?
Yeah, the entire first session of that course is on how to research how to do it. And it's actually research mode that you need to get into. I have this little screenshot that I refer back to all the time. When I started creating content, the research phase is, you spend a lot of time scrolling. Everyone spends a lot of time scrolling. You just got to shift your mindset. Okay, instead of scrolling, I'm going to search. I'm going to search for the keywords that are relevant to my business. You got to start by searching and seeking out what content people are creating on the platform that will be supportive to you and the type of video marketing that you want to do, the type of videos you want to create. Find out what those are and start at topic level. When you search for those people on Instagram in the explore option, you can scroll over to reels on the top and you can look at all the reels. At that point, you are going to look for the top 10 from a view count perspective. So they reached the most amount of people with the story or the content they were sharing. From there, I'll actually go and I'll use a tool called Tok Backup, TOK Backup, and you can use it for Instagram Reels and Shorts as well. And I'll put in the handles of those 10 people, and it will send me back a spreadsheet of their top performing content. Now I've got 10 creators with their top 10 performing content. Now I have 100 ideas that I know have worked for others in the past. And now it's my chance to look at those 100 videos and say, what are the similarities here? Did they all start with a hook? Was it like in my industry, it was hook, problem, solution, CTA. It was that structure over and over again, the top performers. And I pulled that out and I knew what I wanted to say was different, but I knew that that was the structure I was going to have to hold to. Every industry is different though. You even watching 20 of them and you'll get a gist of what that is. Do they hook? Are they zooming in and out? What audio are they using? You're looking for all of the cues as if you were, even if you Google how to be a video critic and look at the things that they look for. And that's what you're going to do. You're just going to draw a little timeline then on a sheet of paper and you're going to say, I'm going to have to do this first, then this, then this. And then you have a list of 100 ideas to get started with, to put your own spin on. And that's the easiest way to get started with virality in mind over the first few months.
Absolutely. Those are some great tips. And also, Jen, how does diversifying your social media platforms, do you think, leads to increased revenue through socials? I know that you kick things off with Insta, but how did you see that by moving on to other social media platforms, you ended up, getting more clients onboarded?
Yeah. So the content that I posted on Instagram, I also posted on TikTok. So I think I'm at about 18,000 on TikTok. The reason that I actually had to stop on TikTok for a period of time was all my call to actions became the and comment below to get the DM, because I found that looping and working really quickly. You can't do that on TikTok though. So I had a lag time there between the content. Now I create 2 videos a day, one with the call to action, one without, and I just use the one without on TikTok. That's only been over the last 2 weeks, so now I'm ramping up there as well. But you can distribute your content across different platforms. It may not perform as well on different platforms. So for example, videos that I have, millions of views on Instagram have a few thousand on TikTok and a few hundred on there's one that has, I think it's like 2.5 million views on Instagram and 8,000 views on YouTube Shorts. It's almost the Wild West of what's going to perform. But that being said, it's something that I'm really actively thinking about. I put up a long form YouTube video about 3 weeks ago where I was talking about this just as a concept, and I'm just talking to cameras conversationally because it's an answer that I'm actually looking for myself, where it's like, do I need to be creating different content for the different platforms? And secondarily to that, can I diversify my content? If I have created the same piece of content for 200 days straight and have grown and love it, then there's a problem there when I start to get bored of creating that style of content every single day. I need to diversify to entertain myself, to keep myself motivated, as well as the audience. So there's kind of 2 pieces to that there. But absolutely, when you're getting started, you may as well post that across every channel and try to retrospectively go back and figure out, why did that work well there and not there? And things are changing. TikTok is looking for longer form content. YouTube is looking for more short content. Instagram doesn't really know what's going on. It keeps going from 90 seconds, 3 minutes up and down. So, these platforms are at the top level competing with each other as well. So factoring that in is important. Who's TikTok most aggressive with at the moment? YouTube. It's going to like you for slightly longer videos. Think strategically about what's happening at the top as well.
Absolutely. Right. So we have 10 more minutes to go before this event ends. And just a gentle reminder, folks, please use the code GenBrand10 to get that additional 10% off on our annual plans. You guys keep asking us for discounted deals, so here you get one. Please make sure that you take advantage of it. If you upgrade during the webinar, you also get 500 minutes free of cost. So you can use that to create, edit, and schedule your videos on social media. Since Jen, you talked about diversifying your social media platforms, I just want to cue in and say that vidyo.ai's plans also allow you to automate your social media posts. What that means is basically you can post on social media directly using the vidyo.ai app. You can also schedule your social media posts and have a content calendar put in place, so to make sure that you're consistent on socials, which is very, very important to increase your revenue through social media. So yeah, make sure that you use the code GenBrand10 for additional 10% off our annual plans, and also get 500 minutes free if you upgrade during the webinar. Jen, how important it is to understand your audience demographics to improve your earning potential on social platforms. What metrics do you generally focus on to understand your social media monetization progress?
So the very top metrics that I will look at are the save rate, because if someone has saved my piece of content, again, remember, I can't see the shares. You should look at shares for this as well, but if you're in Europe, you can't. But I want to look at how many people saved it. And the reason being is that, first of all, it's a metric that's going to help me get more reach. But secondarily to that, I know that if someone has that problem, they have saved it because the solution is now there for them. And people don't save content unless it is resonating from a problem solution perspective. And that's hugely important when you're actually trying to grow your revenue from a social media account. So understanding what problems are actually hitting home the hardest, your first signal of that is going to be your save rate. So the amount of people who save that solution for later, that is your little early batch. Remember here now, when you're creating content to generate revenue, you're going to be looking at lots of different problems, and it's all the spaghetti on the wall, and your signals of what's sticking is the save rate first and foremost. Then you could go layers deeper into that problem. You can create more strategic content around that. Okay, so maybe the top level that you start with is just the problem from a generic perspective. Then the layer deeper, oh, only people who really have this problem are going to get this. And then that's where you're slicing it in. And those videos, you do not give a crap about your view rate. That video is for a specific person in your audience. You're
Yeah.
re-engaging them. You're digging deeper in the problem. That is golden, and where you can you have to say goodbye to your ego sometimes with these. Like for a while there, I was like views, views, views. And now I'm like strategy, revenue. When your bank account starts changing, you're like, oh, I don't care about that hitting 3,000 views when, I have made more money off videos that have less than 10,000 views than I've made on videos with hundreds of thousands of views to millions of views, because I'm slicing the problem again. It's like you're cutting it a little bit deeper each time, and that's only going to resonate with those who are going to actually buy. And for me, that price point is on the higher end. It's a monthly retainer that's gonna be expensive to work with me. So that's why I'm happy to slice that across. So that save rate is the first metric that you're looking at. Then you're slicing the problem again. And then you're trying to get into the DMs. You're looking at your DM response rate from there. And typically I'll take them out of the DMs then and into my email flows and into my other flows. So my longer form content, or they're starting a one-on-one conversation with me. So demos booked. It's your typical sales funnel, your marketing qualified lead. Someone has saved it. Then you're looking at, are they in your DMs now? They're a marketing qualified lead. How's the conversation going now? They're sales qualified. Now I'm bringing them over to have a consultation with them. So there's a sales funnel there piece behind the scenes as well. And when you start looking at things from your revenue and sales funnel, you start worrying less about the views when it's strategically placed into the funnel.
Absolutely. And how does engagement impact the sales funnel on social media? What are the ways that you found built into video.ai to help you predict the engagement levels for your video?
Well, first and foremost, you're going to need reach. And, like video has a nice little virality score, which is a really nice little feature there. So, when I chop up my videos or when I do one long sitting and then I come in and I get all of the pieces out of it that I'm going to like roll out, the virality score is like the golden ticket, really, isn't it? Because it is your answer before your posting. So if you have 20 pieces of content, let's say even 10 pieces of content that you're slicing out of a long form video, um, sometimes I'll even experiment with this where it's like the same problem sliced 10 different ways. Which one of these has the best virality score? I'm just talking to camera. I'm like, okay, this is one way to say it. This is another. This is another. This is another. I want to know which is the best way. And that's really important when you're looking at, two metrics. One is the reach, but also, especially if you're slicing a problem, you want that slice to have a nice, decent reach as well if you can, because there's going to be more people with the problem. Strategy A is the big problem, then the deeper problem, and you're cutting your reach. But if you can get reach with the sliced version, happy days. And some of that will come back to figuring out what way to say it best. And virality score is a nice feature in video to get that out of it.
Absolutely. So, what are some untapped opportunities for monetization that we have so far not discussed that you think creators often overlook on social media?
I think creators often overlook the opportunities around sponsored content and looking at, the influencer marketing side of things. Um, it's really interesting because I had no way of really understanding the potential revenue quality from my audience until I took a handful of influencer posts. The reason being is that I had one of two price points. Would you like my course or an ebook that's way down here, maybe zero to kind of like $100, or do you want like to work with me, which is way up here? There was nothing in the middle, and something in the middle is where I want to get to over time. But a lot of the tools out there that wanted to work with me from an influencer perspective, I was able to do a post, work with them, generate revenue for myself, but also learn about what different price points of different tools, how my audience reacted to those, how much revenue could my audience generate for someone else. And that is something that I can learn for myself down the line, where it's like, okay, if I stopped all of that, how much will that audience generate for me if I was in a price point here with a product, like if I structured that out nicely. So there's some interesting ways that you can look at revenue generating specifically from your own brand. And don't be afraid to take sponsored posts if you're eventually going to transition into a business account either. But it made me even think. I mean, I grew this account for myself and any future businesses that I may have. Oh, my thumbs up is going there. But then I was looking at my dog and I was like, he should be making his own money too. Maybe he should have an influencer account. Maybe I should go backwards through this and look at what's the trending dog content. He should have a revenue income stream for me now as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can look at this in your life and say the channel itself can be revenue generating. But the business opportunities, the price points, there's so many other ways that you can look at it as well.
Absolutely, Jen. So we have a lot of compliments pouring in, and I completely agree with all of them when I say that we've had some great insights on how you can build your business and personal brand on social media and also sort of monetize it. You've shared some great tips, very insightful knowledge, and we're very glad and honored to have had you conducting the masterclass. Just a final heads up for the audience about our offer. You can still use the code GenPrime10 to get an additional 10% off on our annual plans. If you upgrade within the next 2 minutes, you also get 500 minutes free. So hurry up and make sure that you upgrade during the webinar. Jen, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you would like to say before we call it a day?
No, thanks so much for having me. It's been absolutely fantastic. If anyone has any additional questions for me, they can find me at jenbryan._. I'm still annoyed that I couldn't get my name, but yeah, __ at the end, and you'll find me on Instagram. If anyone has any extra questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Absolutely. Right. Thanks, Ziad. It was truly a very great session. Thank you, Wendy. Wendy says it's great to hear direct answers from someone who actually knows what's happening in the space. Completely agree with you on that. Thanks, Emma. Thank you, Wendy. Thanks, Yuri. Um, all right. I think we've answered all the questions. Yeah. Thanks, Gina. Gina, thanks you, Jen. And yeah, says that it was an awesome session. Completely agree with that.
Gurv Mahagut. Sorry, the one came in Irish.
Only you would be able to make sense of that. Anymore. All right.
Mila
Thank you so much
Bricus.
for the
Thanks so
yeah.
much.
Thanks. Thanks, Jen. Take care. Thank you. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Have a
Bye.
great weekend.